Happy Wednesday to the world out there. Gentlemen, happy podcast day.
Good day, good day.
Hello.
Apologies for last week. We're here. We're ready to talk Seahawks. We had a little life come at us last week, but we're back. We're ready to talk. We got a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff happened in the last week.
A ton of stuff.
A ton of
metric
Seahawks
ton
stuff.
Right.
I mean, not like the Mars Explorer thing, no. Okay. Yeah. Seahawks stuff.
But welcome. We are the Hawkscast podcast, brought to you by the Hawkscast forum at hawkscast.net. With me, as always, is Zeb and Ross. And gentlemen, I'm so happy to be here talking about the Seahawks. We had the draft. We had a bunch of undrafted free agents get signed. Metcalf ran the 100-meter dash. We got the schedule today. There's a lot that happened in the time that we last met, and hopefully we'll be able to cover it all.
Every last drip drop.
Get all the words out. All the words.
I mean, it kind of felt like that. Like, I felt like there was definitely the Seahawks are so slow in free agency. They don't do anything the first day and a half, and all of a sudden a bunch of things happen in a row. Then nothing happens. The draft time, we don't have draft picks. Then the draft happens. All these things happen, and now we're kind of we're going to be in that lull again because we don't know what the voluntary camps are going to look like, what OTAs are going to look like, what training camp's going to look like. But it's getting closer. So that's positive, I think.
The draft always does this to me. It gets me really excited, and then I remember how long it is until we actually get to play football.
In a weird way, it's 10 times worse for me this year because I know we shouldn't talk about fantasy football and these kinds of things, but I'm going to. I started a dynasty league this year, so we've already done the initial draft. So I've done that draft, and then we actually kind of use draft picks to choose when we do our rookie draft as well. And so that got me, the draft, plus I did a fantasy football draft. So I'm super in the mode, and now I've got no outlet. And so I've been driving people crazy trying to do trades in Dynasty League that doesn't have anything happening for 3 months.
My God.
I've already done 2 trades. People are like, dude, why? I'm like, I need to do something. I have to have an outlet.
Well, it's a good thing we got this podcast here. The Seahawks got their participation trophy in the 2021 draft with their 3 picks. Draft grades are in. Opinions on the rookies are in. There's still a lot of questions about who they selected because none of them, quote-unquote, look like traditional Seahawks players that they've drafted in the past. With these picks, there was definitely a lot more focus on special teams, which is maybe something we haven't really seen a focus on since they got Michael Dixon. The Hawkscast podcast brought to you by hawkscast.net. We're happy to be here. We're so close to real football. And I think we just want to just going to jump into topic number 1. So
Let's
Ross,
do it.
I know that you had a couple draft insights that we put on the website. So topic number 1, how many of these rookies can be a week 1 starter, which will be at the Colts, the one of only 2 10 a.m. road games? What about the playoffs? Can any of these guys be a starter not only in week 1, but maybe we're going to see them mature and we'll see them a starter in the playoffs? What do you think?
I mean, what do you want to talk first? Week 1?
Let's talk week 1. We have 3 drafted rookies, a corner, a wide receiver, and an offensive tackle.
And then the define starter. I think potentially 2 of the 3 will start if we're talking about just the draftees first. Dwayne Eskridge will be our wide receiver 3 day 1. I mean, he's round 2. He's ready-made. He's ready to go. I think Trey Brown actually is going to end up starting. But that's more of obviously a thing. So, I mean, if we were doing an under-over, I'd put it at 1.75, right? I feel like Eskridge for sure is going to start. I'd say Trey Brown has a 50-50 chance to start. I think Forsyth has an outside shot, actually, of winning it outright.
You think he's going to beat Brandon Shell?
I don't think he's going to, but it wouldn't just like blow me away. Like again, it's the equation. It's not. Hey, if we start him week 1 and he's a 70, but Brandon is a 75, well then we should start Brandon. But he's got more upside, and you give him the reps, and so by if we get to week 17 or week 18 now, I guess we're gonna do that. Will he have become an 85 or an 80 by then if we do that? So we end up with a better player by then. Yeah, I mean it's that algorithm, and you don't know see how they're going to see it. I'd be tempted to play him. Some people had him as a 3rd, 4th round thing. And for offensive line players, mid-round picks often do start, right? I don't think he will. I think but I'm a little bit afraid of the dude. I think he's a little bit too tall. I think for pass rush, especially if the defenders can get under him. I wonder how that's going to play out in the NFL. But anyway, I guess the easy answer is 1 is going to start for sure. Trey Brown from week 1 will get some playing time, and Forsythe's for my opinion, is the wild card there. The UDFAs, I don't think any of them are going to start, but I think a couple of them are going to make the team.
Yeah.
For sure, Cade Johnson's going to make that team, I think.
You think so? Wide receiver?
Cade Johnson, that guy was projected by a lot of people to go the 4th round or 5th round. Yeah, that guy he belongs. Is
he the one who can't catch?
Wow, that's going a little. No, but he he went. I mean, geez, the guy who runs the Senior Bowl, that guy was riding his jock the whole time. He's got a little bit of a got a little bit of a Doug Baldwin in him. I think Cade is gonna make the team for sure. I'm interested. I think most of the others will actually make it to the practice squad. I don't think anybody else is going to would make the team. I think Brian Mills has a chance to be on the team next year. This year he's in the practice squad.
Interesting. Zeb, what about you? You look at these rookies. You look at week 1 as a starting opportunity. Can any of them grow into a playoff starter? What do you think?
I think Ross pretty much nailed it. I think one thing that these guys got going for them is that they were drafted for specific roles, like drafted to play in the slot on both sides of the ball, which gives them a pretty good opportunity to win that job, I think. Obviously, the way our defensive backfield, our cornerbacks are going to pan out, we kind of have no real idea yet. So that'll be interesting to see. But I think that it wouldn't surprise me at all if these guys both end up getting that slot job coming out of preseason. And then as far as the Stone goes, yeah, why not? He's got as good a chance as anybody. I think this draft in particular, since we only got 3 guys, this could be maybe the most the ratio of guys who end up starting could be higher than any we've seen in a long time, or none of them start and they just play special teams. But yeah. I think the chance is there. I think there's definitely a possibility that these guys are going to make an impact quickly.
I look at these. I look at 3 of them and say, their floor is very easy to identify. You look at Eskridge, he looks like wide receiver 3. That seems like a clear, obvious place for him to play. You look at Trey Brown, he looks like he could be a guy that they start outside because of what they saw DJ Reed do last year. And people probably assume
he's going to get a shot at the outside.
Yeah.
He said he was not drafted for the corner or for the. I assumed it was going to be for the nickel as well, but
right.
Apparently he said it's for the outside.
So I think the fact that both of them, those 2, the top 2 picks in the 2nd and the 4th round, those are guys that can be an impact player on the field, and especially because of the way that teams are built. You are going to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. You're going to have to play a lot of nickel. Yeah, technically they're going to be starters, kind of like what Ross alluded to. In regards to actually being impact and people that we're going to depend on in the playoffs, I think having a wide receiver 3 in Eskridge is going to be huge. not because they're going to put up gaudy numbers and be like the 1,000-yard receiver, but ideally, if Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf continue to have solid years in production, having a third person that's worth keeping an eye on is going to be so beneficial. And we'll talk about it a little bit more in topic number 2, but if Shane Waldron is able to use a guy that has a history of running fly sweeps, running, quick hitches, seam routes, things that, there's a lot of tape of Eskridge doing, that seems to bode well, because those are not necessarily things that DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett are being asked to do currently. So it's adding a dimension, it's adding a route runner, it's adding a player that we don't currently have. So I think Dwayne Eskridge has that chance, and I think in the playoffs he potentially could be a difference maker. Not that he's going to be better than anyone else, but just what he could bring to the table we haven't had. Like when we ran those wide receiver jet sweeps with David Moore, we always talked about how they were the most unorthodox on visualization, probably the most inefficient, but still got first downs. And I don't think that's something that we would see with someone like Dwayne Eskridge. With Trey Brown, I think, Ross, like you said, he's going to be given a chance to start outside. Having 2 sub-6 foot corners is something that Seahawks fans are not accustomed to. But if DJ Reed is any indication, and they can be the ball hawk that we haven't really seen our wide receivers capable of being, that could be huge. I don't have a lot of faith in it. My thoughts on Stone, though, just to wrap up real quick, is that I think that he could be a replacement starter, someone that they view as someone who could be the left or right tackle of the future, because Dwayne Brown and Brandon Shell are not signed beyond this year, and unless Seattle wants to extend Dwayne Brown or Shell, we're going to have to replace one or both of them. And I think that's why Forsythe potentially could be someone we see, really taking over, because Dwayne Brown, for as good as he has been for Seattle, he was pretty banged up last year, and he definitely wasn't playing at 100%. So having someone with that body type, and like Ross said, he might be a little bit too tall to play tackle. He only gave up 2 sacks and 400 pass drops at Florida. So it's not like he's going to be a turnstile like we've seen other people before. He's been able to succeed in the SEC. So I think that's a promising stat. It's not everything, but it's something to build off. And that's what I think is exciting about these 3 drafted rookies.
Agree.
If like Trey Brown, you said you're worried about 2 smaller cornerbacks on the outside, but Trey Brown doesn't play small. He's really physical, and also
that's the thing, right? Is that he plays definitely bigger than what he's like 5'10". He's bigger than Eskridge, I believe. But he's like 5'10". Yeah. And he's very physical. I'm concerned that physicality will get flagged in the NFL. But
he'll have to, but yeah. He says he knows the kick step. I look at it like this. I think I was talking with Birdfinger about this at one point. I think you may not see just always a permanent designated left and right corner. Sometimes it may depend on who we start to play.
Right.
The Richard Sherman type is somewhat played out because teams have stopped. When's the last time a team tried to throw 10 balls over the heads on a fly route to us? They don't do that anymore. You can't do that.
Right.
Even during our bad years. They've switched over completely to the short crossings, the slants, the ins, the digs that those bigger guys often can't handle unless you get the supreme, prototype player. And we don't have one anymore. So I think you may actually end up seeing where, this week against this guy, Trey Brown gets the start. And against, a bigger wide receiver or a fly type wide receiver, maybe they go with. I think they may start, instead of just designating slot and outside cornerback, you start getting long cornerback, short cornerback. You know what I mean? The divisions, how we look at them, may change.
Yeah.
Instead of just purely inside outside, it's who do there's DeAndre Hopkins who you just got to be really good at everything. But there's other ones, if you're trying to cover Kirk, then you want the longer cornerback. If you're trying to cover any of the San Francisco 49er receivers they've drafted in the past couple of years, then you need the Trey Brown type, right? So I think it may just go by matchup, much like baseball pitchers, which is annoying about baseball, though, by the way. So.
the specialist?
Yeah. I mean, it really may come to that.
Well, that brings us... I think that's a good segue into topic number 2, because one of the things that we've seen is the type of players that Seahawks are going after, they're not what people would consider to be prototypical Seahawks. So topic number 2, does this rookie class show a departure from Pete Ball and more of Shane Waldron Ball? Zeb, we don't know what Shane Waldron offense is going to look like. We maybe have an idea, but do you think Seattle drafting these smaller or non-Seahawks size players is a departure from what they're trying to do offensively and maybe even defensively?
I think the Trey Brown pick is a fairly obvious departure from the classic cornerback that Pete Carroll would have drafted, and I think DJ Reed is probably the obvious catalyst in Pete deciding that it's okay to do this, and maybe that even this is the way to go now. We always every draft we expect a corner that's 6'2", trying to replicate that success that we had with Sherm. And so to see Pete go this route, I think it's fairly obvious that his mind has been changed, or at least he's willing to accept the idea that this might be the way to go going forward. I don't know that Eskridge is so much of a departure. I think Pete's always kind of wanted this kind of guy with Percy, and I think even with Lockett before the injury was sort of the speedster like that. And I think probably seeing the success of guys like Debo and Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco, I think probably encouraged Pete to go after this guy. I can't attribute it to Shane Waldron because, again, I don't know jack shit about Shane Waldron yet. But I think those two particular things are definitely one's a departure. It's a new thing that Pete's trying, and then the other one, I think, not so much a departure, but just the right guy was there for us, and I think Pete's wanted that kind of guy in Eskridge for a long time.
Ross, what about you? Have you seen a change in what the Seahawks are doing, not only from a draft standpoint, but maybe who they've acquired in the offseason? Oh, no. Did we lose Ross?
I lost you for a second. Can you repeat that?
Oh, do you think that this is a philosophical change, not just on the offense with a new coordinator, but do you think that potentially it's also a bigger shift on the defensive side too?
Well, it can't be a shift because I've been told that Pete Carroll is extremely stubborn and never makes any changes no matter what. So obviously there's nothing changed. So what are we talking about? Oh,
all right, cool. Topic number 3.
Sarcasm over. I think it's just evolution. I mean, I think Pete Carroll has his underlying principles that actually he is kind of stubborn on. But I don't know if you call it stubborn if you've done the math and you know you're right. Yes, he's always going to talk about like turnovers being the biggest thing because that's a huge thing. If you get 8 possessions a game or they get 8 possessions a game, you change it to you only have 7, they have 9, you've given a large advantage to them. So those principles he doesn't change. Everything else, I think he's always changed. Do you remember like 2010, 100 years ago, something like that, where he was running out like 7 defensive backs in a bandit package all the time, and we talked about it all the time. Bandit. And then we went from that to something else. Even a couple of years ago where he drove Birdfinger crazy by running out the 4-3 every week. It's kind of weird to me that people say he never changes when there's constant change. So there's some change he's been learning the last couple of years about defensive backs, and the DJ Reed experiment worked out. And some of the other ones didn't. He kept going to the well with the 6'3", 6'2" dudes. Then you start to realize maybe how special some of the other players were, or how much you needed some of the other moving pieces to be in place for that to work. And so you got, and of course, as we often say on this podcast, the other teams get paid too, and they're going to adjust, right? And that's always how it goes. You get a bigger shield, they buy a bigger sword, so they get a bigger shield. So you buy a bigger battle axe, and they get a bigger armor. Then you get armor piercing arrows, and then
laser gun.
Laser
yeah,
cuts.
it goes on forever, right?
But to that point, really quick, Ross. To that point, I mean, we are in year 11 of Pete Carroll controlling the Seahawks, whereas every other team in the NFC West has had at least 2 coaches, some 3, in that same time span of who has been running their organization, not just at the GM level, but the coach level. So I just want to kind of highlight that even to a larger point that, yeah, we see these other teams shift, but they're shifting out of necessity because they've hit rock bottom and had to fire or let go their coach.
Sure. I mean, that's an excellent point. And we've just never got to the point. It just, again, I guess I'm just being a little bit petty here and talking about how people think that Pete Carroll never changes when, like, literally we constantly change. When's the last time anybody ran the 4-3 at the rate we did? But I thought it was really, really interesting. And, like, Birdfinger, as I keep bringing up today somehow, he and I actually got under it a little bit because, like, you can get hung up on what you label people. Oh, my God, we're running 3 linebackers out there. Yeah, but if the linebacker's so fast, he's got the same time as a strong safety, and he tackles the same as a strong safety, and he's as flexible in his movement. So what's the difference? Because you're putting the LB letters next to his name, it doesn't change who he is, right? People get too obsessed with labeling things instead of just seeing the amorphous player.
Birdfinger chiming in saying he's feeling triggered. And I just want to add to that, Russ. If that linebacker can embezzle money in white-collar crime like a safety can, what's the difference, right?
I mean, Seahawks lead the league probably in white-collar crime. Anyway, my point is I'm not trying to pick up Birdfinger today, obviously. I'm just trying to say, like, I think Pete Carroll's a lot more flexible than people think, and I think he actually has the ability to look at players as players and not worry. I think the Seahawks, more than almost any other team, except for maybe the Patriots, have demonstrated they're not really concerned with the letters after their name. If you're a defensive tackle, but we think you can play offensive tackle, that's what you're going to play. If you're a wide receiver, but you run the ball better, we're going to do that. If you're a quarterback and in college you did certain stuff, that's on our playbook, we're going to put it in the playbook. Like, what can you do? What do you bring to the table? And if it fits what we need, that's what we're going to use. And if it can give us another tool, we're going to use it. I don't really get the whole he's being stubborn. Sometimes, like overall principles, but how he approaches things, I think it's been remarkably flexible. And for a 70-year-old dude to go out there and go, you know what, I was wrong. We need now is a bunch of small wide receivers, but keep a couple, cornerbacks, but we need a couple of big ones in reserve just in case. Go out and do that. And he did. Yeah. Some of the things, I don't think it's a big departure. I mean, Eskridge is, they've always wanted a short, shifty Harvin guy, right? Not that he's necessarily a Percy Harvin type, kind of, but I mean, he's got the same basic frame, some of the same skill set.
Right.
They've always liked that. They've always wanted, whether it's a tight end or a wide receiver, they've always wanted the 6'4", like slow dude who can just box people out, Then they got Metcalf, who is big and can box people out, but then is still blazing fast. So
right.
Then you got the best of all worlds, right? So.
How fast exactly?
I heard that dude can run a 10.37 in the 100-meter dash.
Yeah.
The big fella.
We'll talk about Metcalf later, but yeah, I think to your point, it really comes down to what is your viewpoint on the Seahawks kind of roster philosophy. That's what I think this draft class shows. Dwayne Eskridge, maybe he's been a departure from what Seahawks have tried to draft in recent years, but he fits that Golden Tate, Percy Harvin like mold of a faster, shiftier person that has potential special teams benefits, and that's kind of like what even Tyler Lockett was. Tyler Lockett was brought in as a special team player to just help in the return game. They did not anticipate for him to be that good as a wide receiver, and they just kind of like had to shift him away from that role. And until Tyler Lockett, they haven't had a real standout wide returner. They had some success maybe a little bit last year with DJ Reed, but there's no like marquee plays that I think any of us can remember on special teams returns. So in that in and itself, I think it's definitely a classic Pete Carroll type of move. I think the fact that it was one of our only 3 picks, it makes it seem bigger than what it really was. And I think to Ross's point, if you look at what Pete has wanted his offenses to do, not just on a play-by-play standpoint, but how he wants the focus to be on controlling the ball, getting big plays, and kind of controlling everything. It seems like Shane Waldron maybe could do that, but instead of it being a pass-heavy offense, it potentially will lean a little bit more on setting up passes, which is maybe what we saw bigger success in the past with Bevel and with Shoddy. And I think if that's what we see, then I'll be all for it. Final thoughts on this rookie class, because we're going to talk about some other things. We never got a chance to talk about it. It's on the website. It's on the forum, hawkscast.net. Does anyone have any issues with the New Jersey rules about players being able to have single-digit numbers, even if they're a wide receiver, tight end, or linebacker, and all that jazz?
I have no rational objection. I've got several irrational objections. So,
all right.
I don't care at all.
Of these three players, which, if you had to pick a jersey, Eskridge, Brown, or Forsyth, which would you pick right now? Someone's going to get you a jersey. What would you pick?
Eskridge.
I want Brown because I'm a defensive back kind of dude, but I don't want that's such a boring last name. I guess Eskridge just because it's a cool. I don't want Forsyth either. It makes me sound like I'm on the cast of Dynasty.
He should get to put the stone on the back.
Right, he totally should. I was about to say
I was going to say that
on like the Ichiro rule. If you could do the Ichiro rule, I'd go with Stone.
Yeah,
hopefully with a
the Stone. There is a Halloween where he dressed up as a younger version of The Rock. So the Stone.
Exactly. I saw that picture.
That's why he's the Stone.
All right. Well, let's move along. I think I'm with you guys. I think Eskridge is the only one that makes sense based upon pure illogical reasons, but that's what it is. Ross, topic number 3. The NFL schedule was slowly leaked out, but we got the full picture of what the Seahawks 2021 schedule. What's your take on this 2021 Seahawks schedule?
Well, any other year, it'd be awesome for me. Yeah. I mean, look at that. Any other year where I could fly over there and between 5 weeks, just be there for 3 weeks and watch 3 home games, that's awesome. As far as objectively how it moved, it's a perfect bye week, isn't it? Right there in the middle.
9. Right in the middle.
2 out of the final 3 at home, so that you can kind of pick up any wins you need to if you've kind of muddled through the middle. I don't like Colts if Titans back to back to start it. There's an outside shot. You're looking at 0-2. Those are pretty good teams, aren't they? It's like I'm saying, like I like where the bye is. I like I love the 2 out of the 3 homes because I think we're gonna need that because the beginning of the schedule looks kind of hard to me. Although there's some unsettled quarterback play there.
Right.
I don't know. It's a cool looking schedule for me. It's the first one in a long time. It's funny that I probably can't go over there for games this year. In fact, I've already arranged to sell my tickets.
All right.
But it's kind of funny, ironic, because, this is the first year in many years where the schedule really would have worked out for me to going over there and seeing a few games in a row. Oh, well.
I mean, that sweet spot is probably week 5 to week 8, right? It's a Thursday night
right.
game, Sunday night away, Monday night home, and then Jaguars in 4 weeks. And it's less than 4 weeks because it starts on Thursday. Actually, it's a little bit longer, but... Yeah. Yeah,
but it's something I probably could have swung. Oh, well. I'll look at week 16, 17 and see what the winter's looking like.
So just a couple of highlights. It's a week 9 bye, 5 primetime games. There's a mini bye between your Thursday home game against the Rams and a Sunday night road game. First 4 of the 6 are on the road, then 2 home games before the bye, and then the last 8 games are split 4 and 4 home and away, pretty great, and only 2 10 a.m. Eastern games. Even the Green Bay game is a 1:00 game. I feel like the schedule definitely worked in Seattle's favor. Zeb, what's your take when you look at this kind of a schedule?
Well, a few things stick out. Obviously, the 5 primetime games, which is something we've kind of become accustomed to after years and years of hoping for one. I love the Halloween game. I don't know how many times we've played games on Halloween. I imagine it's happened here and there throughout the years, but I kind of never really thought about it. I almost wish it was a night game on ESPN or something so we could have all kind of spooky themes and the way they kind of play up that kind of nonsense on TV. I don't know why that seems fun to me. But overall, it looks like a tough, fairly balanced schedule, you know? There's a lot of question marks. Obviously, it's when you're looking at a schedule this early in the year, trying to figure out how good teams are going to be. But like Ross said, those first 2 right off the gate look pretty tough. Coming into the end of the season, we have no idea how good Chicago and Detroit could be. They could be awful, but there's a lot of change and a lot of new things going on. So it looks fun. It looks exciting. I don't love going to Pittsburgh again. I don't love going to Green Bay, but I'm glad it's not in December or January. I think the chances for bad weather are fairly slim, with the exception of the Seattle games that could potentially be that way. But it looks fun. The 17th game is still a little weird to look at. The lack of lack of symmetry. 18. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, we know all these teams. We've played all these teams 1,000 times.
I mean, there's so much quarterback uncertainty on our schedule.
Right.
Colts have got Wentz, and he's back with Reich, so maybe he's good, but that's a big maybe. Titans, okay. Vikings got Kirk Cousins, there's nothing great, and they've drafted Mond. 49ers, we don't even know. We'll talk about that. Rams, Stafford's better, probably, but he also doesn't seem to be a person who can carry a team to playoffs, so we'll see. Steelers, Big Ben's on his last wheels on his wheelchair. Saints are either going to start a tight end or an interception machine at quarterback. Jaguars starting a rookie. Packers, hopefully we have Love.
I hope so. That would be badass. Right.
Cardinals have Murray, who's good, but I just don't think he's got the it factor. Washington football team, well, Fitzpatrick, okay. 49ers again. Texans, we all know what that's like. Bears, again, the rookie. Lions with Goff. So, I mean, it's not... I mean, the teams themselves off of reputation seem pretty good, but this is the year to hit a lot of these teams, man.
Could be.
I mean, you're looking at what? 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 5 of these teams have a quarterback that was their clear-cut starter from last year, right? Titans, Vikings, Steelers, even though Roethlisberger was hurt. Green Bay, if we assume Rodgers is playing. Watson and Texans, if we assume he's playing.
I don't think we can assume either of those guys are playing.
I wouldn't have played at all.
And then Murray. So really, we're talking about just 5-ish teams on the schedule that have the same quarterback consistency from last year, and still, even then, it's questionable.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's funny because you look at these teams, and they do seem like powerhouses, but this is the year that they seem to have a little bit of kryptonite going on.
Birdfinger just pointed this out. He put it on hawkscast.net, but also just chatted with us and said, the Seahawks have the easiest 2021 schedule based on BetMGM's win totals, with the opponents averaging about 8.1 win per team. So Seahawks they're expected to average, the floor is 9 wins, but the projections I've seen is a low 11. So that's an 11 and 7 or 11 and 6. We don't know what that's going to look like in a playoff scenario this year, but I think you look at the schedule, and before you look at who's starting each of these teams, just knowing the fact that there's questions at the quarterback position, that I believe bodes well for Seattle. Because the teams that have a clear-cut starter where there are no questions about who's starting for their team, they're not coming off great years. The Titans, they won one game, but they got rocked in the playoffs. Minnesota came on okay at the end of last year. I think they got to just almost 500. And then the Steelers, like, you know, quarterbacks can definitely play much further into their years, but do the Steelers have a running game this year with their new drafted guy? I think those are fair questions to ask. So we'll see what happens. The early betting odds for Seattle at Indianapolis is -2. So Indy is less than a home favorite right now before the season even starts.
Sorry, what was that?
They're a 2-point favorite, which means that they're not even covering like the home playoff advantage.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of a weird thing. I mean, like, that's showing a lot of faith in Wentz, isn't it?
Well, the other thing is, if you think about it, Wentz has never beat Seattle.
They have a legit defense, though. Maybe it's kind of a reflection of that.
Yeah, but it's not like Philly had terrible defenses when we played them.
No, but I mean, like, I think like Indy really actually has like a tough one of like a name brand sort of defense.
Right, their defensive line is quite strong. So, but yeah, it's like you said, you know, that 2-game stretch at Indy, home against the Titans, it could be, you could start the season 0-2 for sure.
Yep. God, that would suck.
I mean,
let's not do that.
I mean, they've come back from an 0-2 record.
They quite really did that 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world for our team, but it's not. I mean, it sucks that we have to just like contemplate it here in May.
Yeah. Outside of the fact that we're all going to have to get used to a week, you know, a 17-game schedule. Final thoughts on what the schedule looks like. Is there a game that you're really looking forward to? Like, do you think that, is there any game on here that's going to really make or break this season?
Not make or break, but the Jaguars game is going to be quite fun because we get to play the rookie golden boy in his, you know, in the first half of the season while I still learn it. Hopefully that should be good. They've got 2 marquee rookies on the team. And, I don't know. Like, and week 10, I think, is going to be a huge litmus test, especially if Aaron Rodgers. That's against the Packers. Week 10 in Green Bay, you can kind of see maybe we're going in maybe 4-4, 5-4, whatever, and it's just going to be, everybody's going to make it out. It's not necessarily true, but it's going to be made out to be like, you know, are you legit or not? Right. Are you real or not? So I'm looking forward to those 2 games.
I like the fact that we could be seeing Lance, Lawrence, and Fields, all 3 of the rookie guys. That could be fun, potentially.
Really
great. Is Jared Goff the de facto starter week 17? Is that a given or guarantee?
The Lions didn't even draft a quarterback, so like they're going all in on Goff.
Yeah.
Both of those
teams.
And
the Saints didn't draft a quarterback either, correct?
Nope. But I mean, you know, I keep saying like we don't have to worry about them because they have, you know, they're going to start Taysom Hill probably, but he beat us last year, right?
No, we lost to Teddy Bridgewater with the Saints.
Last year, Teddy was with Carolina. I thought we played the Saints last year, and I thought Taysom Hill played. Maybe I'm completely spacing out. Taysom Hill played really well last year, though.
We'll have to do some research on that. Maybe Tony or Bird can help us out with that.
Awesome.
Let's move on to the last topic of the evening. This is a fun topic. We all got to witness it. If you didn't, it was 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 0.37. Zeb, should players like DK Metcalf, quote-unquote, train for things outside of football? There was a lot of talk about the build-up to this, his announcement of it.
I'm completely imagining things. Weird.
What's your take on DK running this 100-meter dash with professional track athletes? And should we see players like try things outside of football to for whatever reason?
I mean, fundamentally I don't have an issue with it. I actually had fun watching DK run that, and I was pretty excited for him, and I thought it was cool and all that. Had he gotten hurt, would I be upset? Yeah, totally. So it's hard. I don't have a definitive stance on it. Obviously, I want players to be able to go out and live and enjoy themselves, and especially the ones who are, potentially world-class athletes, go out there and show what you can do. But yeah, the thought of a guy, and especially an important player, getting hurt doing some shit like that would be frustrating and difficult. So, I definitely I see both sides to it, and I'm glad he did it. I'm glad things were okay and nothing happened.
What was your when you're watching? And I don't know how much track and field you've seen in your lifetime. I limit myself mostly to like the Olympics, but
yeah, that's about it.
What was your take when you're watching this giant guy line up against all these other track people? I kind of felt like it's like when you see someone who's matured way too fast running with like in middle school or high school, and it's like, dude, that guy has got way too much testosterone. Like, throw him in the higher class. That guy just is going to be dominating.
Yeah, it was pretty funny to see the big ass DK out there running with the little guys. And that part of it was fun. And for what it's worth, he didn't have a world class time, and yes, he came in last in his race, but he kept up with those guys. He doesn't have nothing to be ashamed of. The amount of people on social media that were just hating on the whole thing, posting speeds from like high school races and stuff that were similar, and it's like, come on. Why do you got to be a hater? Like, you saw the race. He kept up with those guys. He's not he's run some track, but he's not a trained track and field athlete at this point in his life. He's a football player. The fact that he was able to be as close to the rest of those guys, to me, is pretty impressive.
Yeah, Ross, what about you? We didn't get a chance to talk about this. We were going to talk a bit before he ran, but he ran. He's safe. He posted a time. Should players be trying to train for other things other than football?
I mean, it depends on what they are. I don't really want them out, like, riding ATVs on the dunes. But
oddly specific.
But like running 40, 30, 20, 100-yard dashes. Yeah, I want Metcalf running like sprints in the off season, to be honest. And if it's actually in some sort of competition, I actually feel like it's even safer, because I think there's people there who will help you with preventative care, and like there's people who have money on this event. They're going to make sure everything's in the best condition, and it's probably even more motivating. It's one thing to go down to the local high school and just keep running 40 or 30 or 20 or 100-yard dashes. It's another thing to be doing it for a purpose. So I felt it's probably effective training. I mean, like, I assume that this kind of thing, it resembles what he would be doing anyway, to me. So I don't mind it at all. And if you happen to get hurt just running straight, well, you were going to probably get hurt anyway. There's a chance that, anytime you move your body, and you have to, you can't bubble wrap the dudes. And the thing is, like, the young and competitive people, if you tell them not to do things, I'd rather him doing things like that during the spring than being in Vegas or being late at night. I mean, if he's focused on other stuff he can compete with, that's like less temptation for a young man who's suddenly a millionaire. So I think it's awesome. Again, there's certain things even basketball. I think basketball is actually more injury, causes more injuries than football, just different type. So I don't think I'd want him out there playing basketball, which a lot of players do. But baseball, track, being in the gym, cool, do that. Like, be awesome. Be ready for next year. Be focused. Have goals. You can't have Pete Carroll's philosophy of always compete, but then tell him to turn it off for 6 months of the year, right? So it helps sharpen the sword. If every once in a while there's a downside to it, yeah, that's fine. But I think the Seahawks have been pretty lucky, except for ATV riders. Other than that,
it's such an odd specific reference. Who knew?
All right. I'm just saying, I think, statistically, you're going to have some people get injured by doing off-season stuff. But we had a guy lose his entire career, so we've kind of paid our dues. and so everybody else is safe, right? Sure. No, I know, but seriously, like running track is something similar to what he'd be doing anyway. So I don't have a big objection to that. If he was out there going to play Aussie rules football, I'd be like, maybe not, man. But I don't mind him running track. Yeah, at all.
I think as with everything, you're always going to hear the loudest voices on the extreme ends where there are people who are going to hate on what DK Metcalf did. He's safe. He ran it well. I thought he represented himself as an athlete well. Obviously, probably want him to do better, but I think for the most part, like, it was very impressive to see him, who is anywhere from 20 to 45 pounds heavier, and for him to carry his weight in such a way and to run, 100-meter dash as fast as he did. I saw a lot of football players give DK a lot of respect, and I think the best thing was, I can't remember. I think it was Ocho. He asked him, Emmanuel Ocho. He asked him, like, why would you do this? Why would you run this 100-meter dash and risk, kind of like people making fun of you? And he said, because I'm not afraid. And I think that speaks really well to his mentality, and I'm really excited to see what that means for him in the future. There are definitely a lot of people saying, like, is this faster? Is this DK faster than when he was last year when he chased down Budda Baker on that on the interception return and prevented a touchdown? I mean, that's got to be one of the best Seahawks plays in recent history in a regular season game. But I'm excited for what this could do. I think for the most part, I'd like to think that I'm that person who says, yeah, they're young athletes. I want them to live their life. I don't want to bubble wrap them. But deep down, I'm like, dude, just focus on football, watch the tape, play catch with the quarterback, and don't hurt yourself. Like, that's what I want deep down.
But like, he has to run in the offseason, so may as well run for a purpose, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. And that's the difficulty of the situation. It is something that is so similar to what he's already doing. He's not going out and doing some other sport like he said. But I think it's hard for me as someone who's trying to be reasonable and trying to be a supporter of them to also, like, keep that in check. I mean,
yeah, I get it. It just, I mean, like I said, I mean, it actually has a lot of benefits that maybe aren't necessarily, available. Like, that answer that I'm not afraid, that he's spending his off season, like, being as physical as he can. And last year he brought some extra intimidation to his game, right? Before that, he was like kind of a nice guy, but he found that people were like, expected him to be intimidated, so he said he just went with that anyway. And last year he had much more attitude on the field. Wow. And I don't know. I really like that. I want to encourage him to go out there and have other interests, and if they actually have benefit to the football field, and I think this does, that's even better.
Can I just say, though, if you have interests, can they be things that don't get you hurt? Like, can you be like Tyler Lockett and write poetry, talk about wanting to be an actor after the end of your career? Richard Trey talking about being a business owner, Cam Chancellor about being a business owner, Marshawn Lynch talking about, protect your chicken. You can't get hurt doing those things. Is that too much to ask, though?
But when it gets to the OTAs, what kind of shape do you want them to be in? I mean, to stay in shape, you actually have to move your body, right?
Right.
I mean, how do you stay in? I mean, and you can't just lift weights. I mean, one of his tools is being fast. So to be fast, you have to practice being fast.
Right.
It doesn't just happen. You can't just have muscles if you're not running, right? You can build up your leg muscles, but if you're not using them for running, you're not going to be fast.
Hey, can we talk about how fast he got off that line, too?
Yeah.
Well, for 40 meters, like, you could see he's a football player. For the first 40 yards, like, that dude's, like, in first or second place, or third place, worst, right?
Could you imagine the first play that DK runs, they line him up in a sprinter stance, and they just tell him, run, and we're going to throw this ball to you?
I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this, but if you watch games up till right around 1979, you'll see wide receivers line up in a sprinter stance. You'll see, I can find screen captures for you of Steve Largent lined up like that. Honestly, so you think I'm lying? I'm gonna find it right now.
I believe you, but I mean,
it's bizarre to think of it now because you never see. I don't know when it's suddenly dropped off because like I'm pretty sure even it's still 79, you still see it, and then from like 80 on, you never see it again.
I mean,
like
the closest thing in football we see now is the difference between like a linebacker or an edge player line up in a 3-point stance versus like upright. Like those are like the quote unquote tells that you might see on the field. But I think now that he's done, now that he's safe, I'm happy for him. I thought he represented well. I thought it was a cool thing, especially in how he approached it, because he did take it seriously, and he was there to perform, and it sounds like he got a lot of respect not only from other players in the NFL, but also from track athletes who said it's good for other people to see how difficult our sport is, and it's not just like, oh yeah, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that. Like, there is actual talent and skill. And there were a lot of people that said, yeah, if DK Metcalf were to commit to being a track athlete, he couldn't run at 235, but if he drops down to 200, yeah, he could be amazing. So I thought that was cool.
He's got the legs.
Did well.
I'm gonna find this.
All right. While Ross is searching for Steve Largen's 3-point stance, we got some predictions. So the first prediction I forgot to erase because we thought we were going to do this last week, so we're going to skip that. It was about DK's 100-meter time. I put an over-under of 1.2. He ran 10.37, which, again, we're talking about fractions of a second. So The first question for Zeb I want to know is 2.5 over-under undrafted free agents make the practice squad or the 53-man roster?
I'll go over.
You're going to go over? Ross, what about you? 2.5 over under making the practice squad or the 53-man roster?
Way over.
Way over? You think? I mean, there is a lot of teams. Birdfinger saying over. I mean,
you want me to go through the list? Watch this. Okay. Here you go.
Let's
Tate Johnson makes the team outright.
Whoa.
Terry is going to make the practice squad for sure. Because like they're going to be intrigued by his height. He needs a year. 2019 he was awesome. 2020 wasn't as awesome, but give that dude another year of seasoning, he's got a chance. Connor Weddington, he's kind of a slotty dude. Okay, maybe not. Brian Mills, he's definitely going to be on the practice squad. Cornerback, he's the long cornerback out of North. In 2019 in NC Central, had 5 interceptions. That's pretty good. So that dude's 6'1". He's got the 32 jump. He's like the more classic guy that they're still going to need occasionally. Hawker is a guy that should have got drafted probably, so he's going to make it. BJ Emmons, you get to running backs, you never know. It's all kind of a crapshoot with the show. But like that's already 1, 2, 3, 4 dudes right there.
What about Brian Mills? Did I miss Brian Mills?
The
corner from
yeah. That's he needs a year of season. He'll be on the practice squad this year for sure. Unless dude, he may get picked up. He needs seasoning, but if somebody's really intrigued with him, he may get poached to somebody's active roster. Probably not, but he'll definitely make the practice squad, especially with the new rules with the practice squad. He'll be on the practice squad, but maybe get pulled up.
I hope they keep the practice squad rules, because I thought that was very beneficial for teams, especially if they're a little bit banged up, because I think that played very well for Seattle. Zeb, what is the most improved position group right now?
I'm gonna say this out of wishful thinking, and I'm going to say the cornerbacks.
Ah, interesting. I would not have expected that. Ross, what about you? What's the most improved?
Defensive. I mean, after the draft, just from the whole,
including the draft and free agency.
I think I want to say defensive line.
Interesting.
I think we've got a really good defensive line now. All right. I'm not quite sold on the fact that we're even finished. We may still add somebody. There's a couple decent rushes still out there, so we'll see.
Is it weird that... Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna send you a picture right now. It's
right.
not Steve Largent, but it's another guy.
Okay. I expect it to be black and white and in those leather helmets.
Leather helmet, yeah.
I'm gonna send it. I mean, I will post this for anybody who's interested. I will post this later on our website, or one of you can, because I don't have an Imgur account.
With the goalpost in the front of the end zone.
On the front of the end zone.
No. This is from a 19. This is week 10 of 1979. Seahawks versus the Rams. Jim Zorn. I think this is Sam McCollum. It's like pretty low quality here, but I'm sending it to you right now.
Did you just take a picture of it?
He took a picture.
I have a Japanese cell phone, so when you take a picture, no matter what, it always makes a sound. It wasn't like with a camera or something. I put it into our line chat. Sorry for everybody else who's just listening, but we'll post this later on. You can see a wide receiver in a track stance.
All right, well, I'm telling you, if DK busts that out like week 1 against the Colts, I will be happy. Birdfinger says the D-line is also the most improved. He says Geno Atkins is still out there, which is true. I kind of want to say the offensive line is the most improved. I think moving Damian Lewis to left guard, Posek is still our center, and Gabe Jackson as our right guard, I kind of feel like that's a huge improvement just because from a health standpoint, I think that our offensive line could be better, and you add Stone Forsythe, who is looking like he could be the number 2 tackle on either end. I think the offensive line could be better. So
you might be right.
Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but we'll never know. Zeb, which is the least improved position group?
Not including position groups where we didn't make any changes, like quarterback or kicker or punter. I'm going to have to say the linebackers are the least improved.
Yeah,
that's kind of the same situation, though, isn't it? We didn't move any pieces there.
Right, but we need to.
We lost a lot of people.
Well, do we? I mean, yeah, we lost a lot. I mean, like, I don't feel like we're going to play any linebackers this year.
We're just going to go
like Bobby out there.
Definitely possible. I'm all aboard on the bring back KJ train, though.
Yeah.
Are you thinking with your heart or your head when you say that, or both?
I think he had one of his best seasons last year.
For sure.
I don't want to get caught in a situation where somebody like Barton is being relied upon to start. So
yeah,
I would rather have KJ.
Like
I feel like now he went out there and he's looked and nobody's willing to pay him the big bucks. We should be able to get him on a moderately friendly deal, something that we can get out of if we need to. We're not going to be giving him like 3 years, $30 million, you know?
Yeah.
At which point, John Schneider just completely checked out.
Yeah.
Did you know, I'm just going to give you a check. Just fill in what you think you earned.
Ross, who's your least improved position group?
Question. I'm gonna have to disagree with Zeb here. I'm gonna go. It might actually be cornerback. I feel we're making some pretty lateral movements there.
It really could be. I hope not, though.
There are so many corners on this roster right now. So even
there's like 14.
Yeah, and once you add the undrafted players in, they're quite a bit. So I think that's a fair thing. I'm gonna say our least improved position group is tight end. I feel like our tight end situation is pretty shitty comparative, and we didn't utilize our tight ends well at all last year. I'm not sure how much of an upgrade Gerald Everett is over, not even just Greg Olsen, but just like our tight ends in general. Like
he better be an upgrade.
I mean,
to that point, I mean, so we brought over the Rams offensive coordinator. And like John Schneider and Pete Carroll said to him, like, you know what, dude, thanks for coming to the Rams. From the Rams, you can bring one guy realistically with you. We'll go get him for you. Who do you want? And that's who he wanted. Does that mean something?
I mean, it means something. It's not nothing, but I mean,
he didn't say like Donald, Glover, Donald, but he wanted offensive dude. So
I don't know. I'm just looking at like the fact that I can't even remember his name, but the tight end, not Greg Olsen and not Luke Wilson and not Will Disley, the other tight end that is not with the team anymore. He's the one that couldn't extend for the touchdown in 2019 for us to win the NFC West.
The guy who's, I know, 46.
He had the weird H-back number. That's how monumental he is in my life that I can't even remember his name.
I remember.
And he played
That's Hollister.
Hollister, yeah. So, like, I feel like as much as I just dogged that dude, he was probably our best and most consistent tight end. I
was really mad how they treated him because, like that dude would play legit. He's not flashy. He wasn't sexy at all.
He's like the quote unquote scrappy receiver. Like every team needs a guy like that, but he was not the one that I wanted to entrust to
the season too.
Yeah, like that's not who I would have gone with, but that's just me. Birdfinger saying the running backs, I feel like that's probably a good choice too, as least improved, because Carson coming back from an injury, Penny coming back from an injury, DJ Dallas, Travis Homer coming back from an injury. Lost Carlos Hyde too. I think that's pretty fair. All right. Next prediction. It's the same question for 3 players. They either re-sign with Seattle, they retire, or they sign elsewhere. KJ, Sherm, and Golden Tate. What's your take, Zeb?
All right, say again.
So they either re-sign with Seattle, they retire, or they sign with another team. KJ Wright, Richard Sherman, and Golden Tate.
Okay. I think KJ's coming back. I think Sherman ends up somewhere else, and I think. Is this like Mary F. Kill? Or
almost. He doesn't have to be exclusive, but.
I mean, you can come up with some sort of outside the box answer, like Golden Tate starts his NBA career.
Starts a donut shop. I think Sherm and Tate both still play somewhere else. I don't see them coming here.
Okay, fair enough. Ross, what about you?
Sherm, I'm surprised, but I actually want us to sign him. What? But I think he goes back to the 49ers, who are going to offer like $1.50 more. Golden Tate, man, that dude needs to retire. But I don't think his mentality will let him. I think he plays like 8 games for like the Texans or something.
He still makes plays when he's out on the field. Yeah.
I don't know. Last year he didn't really. I don't know. Last
he played on the Giants.
Time.
Wasn't he on the Giants
year,
all of last year?
For like 3 years, and like 2 years ago, he's still making plays.
That's because he was in Detroit, and then he got traded to Philly, and the Philly, like, they suck. So
I don't know, man. Like, with Philly has no receivers and didn't want him, so I think Golden Tate's kind of done. But that's just me.
He probably is.
KJ, that's a big. I mean, like he only has really one option left, and that's Seattle. And I think he thinks. It's going to be hard. He's going to have to swallow some pride. He really deserves a payday. The Seahawks have probably been burned a few many times on paying for what you've already done. If he wants to come back for a little bit of money, he'll come back. If not, he'll. It sucks to retire after your best season ever, but like you're stuck in this thing where you think you deserve it, but everybody else is going like, yeah, dude, but you're a ticking time bomb. Any day now, you're gonna drop off. And it's a young man's game, and if you're playing him, you don't get to play your young guys. BKK needs some playing time to see what you got there.
I think they probably know what they got with BKK.
And
BBK.
And
BBK also.
Sorry, BBK. Sorry, not Bangkok Airport. I guess KJ probably signs like just before camp for the vet minimum.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he even makes the team.
Ooh, yeah. That would be a take for the preseason. Burnfigure chimes in and says, KJ comes back, Sherman Tate play somewhere else. I'm going to go with what my heart is, and I'm going to give some crazy answers. I think Golden Tate potentially could re-sign with Seattle. I think Sherm signs somewhere else, and I think KJ is going to retire. I don't think he's going to get a good deal. I think he's going to walk off into the sunset. There's no reason for him to accept a subpar deal and risk it all when he did come off in a great year, and he does deserve a contract, but he's older, and I think that ends up being an unfortunate thing. Like, Ross, if you could say that he potentially could get cut going into the regular season, that's not a great sign. I feel like that is a retire option that he might have to explore.
I mean, again, like, I know he did really, really well last year. It's not that I'm underrating that. I don't know if that's how teams are looking at the linebacker position right now.
True. I think that's very fair. All right, 2 more predictions, and we'll wrap it up. Zeb, yes or no? Aaron Rodgers is the Packers starter in Week 1.
Nope.
Ooh. Ross.
All common sense, everything just says he has to. But that guy is like a major ass. And he's got some major pride issues and stuff. And, he doesn't, 30 million or what is it? He would have to pay back tons of money if he retires.
He's got 2 years left on his contract.
Something like $30 million he'd have to give back. But at the same time, like, that dude is just like, he's all about being Aaron Rodgers. And he feels really, really betrayed, on several levels. And he
dude just won an MVP.
Yeah. And I really don't know. My brain says he has to, but then, there's the human factor that's really strong in this because he's a unique dude. Not necessarily in a positive way. Hasn't talked to his family in years. I'm just gonna say yes, he is.
You're speaking with your head. That's a purely logical.
I don't care how much money you have in the bank. It's really hard to walk away from go to the bank and say I'd like to make a withdrawal. I need $30 million to give it back to the Packers because I don't want to play because that guy's a dick.
Yeah, Birdfinger's saying he's not. I'm with Birdfinger. Birdfinger thinks that the Broncos are going to get him as a starter. I'm going to say he's not going to be with the Packers Week 1, and the pure reason is he is stubborn enough not to do it. Like, there are definitely players like we saw with Earl Thomas who said, "Oh, I'm sitting out. I'm not coming to camp. I'm not playing," and then all of a sudden he was going to risk game checks, and it's like, nope, coming to camp. Chancellor sat out the regular season and lost out on game checks. There's a different mentality between certain type of players, and I think Aaron Rodgers is that guy that's going to sit out, not play, or retire. I don't think he's going to be the starter Week 1. Maybe later, but I think that he is that kind of individual.
It's an interesting game of chicken because although at the same time I talk about Aaron Rodgers having to give $30 million back, if the Green Bay Packers get to the point where they really believe he'll do that, then maybe they'll be like, oh, well, we should trade him so we get something. Yeah, what are the Green Bay Packers going to do with $30 million? They need stuff on the field. So
right.
Maybe at that they would do the trade, but.
And the fact that he did it before the draft, like the day of the draft, essentially, I think that he wanted to force their hand right away. Like that's why I think that he's willing to stand out. All right. Last prediction for the evening. Who is going to be the Week 1 starter for San Francisco? Is it going to be Jimmy G or Trey Lance? They've played about the same number of games over the last year, I feel like.
This whole Trey Lance thing really conflicts me because he's the one guy out of this rookie class that I really wanted to be able to root for just to become that player and have a good career. And he's a 49er. So there's only so much rooting for him I can do now. I have a hard time believing he's going to be the Week 1 starter though. So I guess if those are the options, Jimmy G's the guy.
It's hard because I totally get that. But if you think you're going to have to switch, it may be better just to go with him from the beginning. I don't know his mentality and stuff. There's so much that goes into that decision. Like, does Jimmy G have the mentality that he's okay just being a placeholder even? Like, if not, if he's going to be a jerk about maybe he'll embrace it, play so well that they can't take the job away from me ever. I don't know. It's tough. I think Jimmy G gets to start Week 1.
I think this is a clear case where if they start Jimmy G, they're trying to make a playoff run. They're trying to make it as deep and as far as they can. If it's Trey Lance, it's because they want to build for the future. That's the only reason why you start a rookie with one game in the last 500 days.
Well, their roster's ready to go. So that means you're saying Jimmy G then.
Unless he wins the job, unless he pulls that Russell Wilson, right?
Right, and then because there are clear deficiencies with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Kyle Shanahan probably has a longer leash than other coaches, but he's also failed at a very high level as well. And if he misses out on playing the right starter for this 2021 season, I don't know if that's too much to come back from.
I think from their point of view, I think San Francisco's biggest issue with Jimmy G is really just his availability. So if he is available, maybe they're like, cool, man.
I don't know. I
failed other stuff, but I don't think
we saw him in the Super Bowl, right? He did not play well enough to win. Yeah, if they had a super big lead and they weren't playing Patrick Mahomes led Kansas City Chief, maybe they could have held on to that win. But there were so many plays that you needed your quarterback to make, and he just couldn't.
Yeah, but I don't think they necessarily, if that's how they completely saw it, I think that he wouldn't even be on the roster right now. They would have just gone all in on getting a new quarterback. So I don't think they, for whatever reason, whatever they see on tape or whatever, I don't think they blame that. I don't think they lay on him.
Yeah, but they traded up to get someone. So they made a big splash, and they thought that Trey Lance was their guy. So
you don't trade up to number 3 for nothing. So
yeah, exactly. So the faith in Jimmy G is probably as low as it's going to be for quite some time in San Francisco.
A lot of moving parts of these questions today, man. These are hard predictions today.
All right, well, that's good because that is the end of the show. Gentlemen, those are some great predictions. So it's time for some shout-outs, though.
Shout out to all the people working down at the mass vaccination sites who have made that whole entire process so simple, fast, and seamless.
Nice.
Oh, man. I wish I could get it.
Ross, we already told you got to come during that 3-game primetime stretch, 3 home games in 4 weeks. Perfect time to get vaccinated.
If I'm going to head over there to get my vaccine, I'm not going to wait another 5 months, am I? I'm going to do it in the summer. My shout-outs are to Birdfinger and to Tony for listening live with us today, and to everybody who's over here suffering in Tokyo, where the numbers aren't bad on us. It's just that we're doing half measures now for 15 months. It feels like you got to do what you got to do, but I just feel like we should be super, super strict a long time ago for us long short of. We're a mess over here right now. Again, life's going on, but we're just we're stuck in the Twilight Zone. We're right on the border forever now. Somebody come save us. Right. We need better government.
I would also echo the shout outs to Birdfinger and to Tony. We appreciate the support and for checking us live. We are the Hawkscast podcast, brought to you by Hawkscast.net. Please check us out on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast and Seahawks Forum. With me, as always, is Zeb and Ross, and I am Sam, and we all wish you a very happy Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.